Hello everyone, welcome you all to episode number 26 on intimacy laws. I am Rupam, founder and CEO of Aculi Labs Private Limited, Bangalore, India, creator of Lifers and author of the book Intimacy Laws for Man, The Birth of the Legal. And in episode 26, as promised, we are going to discuss and learn about the fundamentals of the way a man should communicate with a girl or females or women, whatever you say. In yesterday's episode, that is episode number 25, we learned what a girl expects from a man and the reason that they expect such conversation from a man. We learned that girls have disintegrated memory, which means that with every event of their life, there are multiple different conflicting, contradictory feelings that are associated with each memory. Because whenever we look into our life, our brain tries to pull out the memory from the past and tries to analyze our observation and our situation. Because of this, the girls always have a very confusing and contradictory situation in their life in any situation, because whenever they come into a situation or a decision which requires a judgment or decision, what exactly happens is, for the same instance or incidents, multiple events from the past is analyzed by their brain. Each of these have different feelings, at times contradictory feelings, and therefore whenever the decision system is processing the current instance, it often gets very disturbing and confusing, and that is the reason they have to tell themselves a story multiple number of times. Whenever they take a decision, it is not that the brain is taking the decision. It is that they tell themselves a story, repeat the story over and over and over and over and over again, which is called the believing brain. They make a story. And this is required because we already know from the past episodes that tremendous amount of their energy goes into the ovary and reproductive system, and therefore brain always compromises on the energy to keep them healthy in terms of reproductibility. Because if a girl's reproductive system goes down, then her health goes down, her glow goes down, she suffers from hair fall and various other conditions which hits her self-esteem. And once the self-esteem goes down, anyways brain goes into a depressive loneliness mode, which makes it very hard for a female brain to even function. Therefore, the female brain takes a lot of energy hit. They have a slower metabolism, and that's the reason their decision system and their judgment is always a very story driven judgment. They repeat it over and over again, and they live in subjective reality, which means that they look for validation and they look for the validity of their decision, because brain doesn't have that many layers. Brain cannot engage that many layers of decision making, and even if it does, the base rules which are coming from their past are always contradictory and conflicting, and therefore it is almost like small pieces of irons spread through their entire brain. Now if you leave those iron pieces as it is, they get oxidized, which is extremely toxic. Of course, you know rusted iron is a toxic. Anything that gets oxidized is acidic. For example, if you add an extra atom of oxygen with water, water becomes hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide is acidic. Anything is acidic. So for example, sulfuric acid, H2SO4. So more oxygen gets into the sulfur and it becomes acidic. So whenever it's a parallel, but the science goes much deeper than that. So therefore, they have bits and pieces of memory, and each piece of memory, brain needs to activate them as a cluster. So there are multiple clusters of neurons, active neurons, that is spread over their brain. And that is the reason many girls feel shooting pain in their head whenever there is a difficult condition in life or whenever they are under stress, because a lot of clusters gets connected and each cluster have multiple layers of feelings. That is the reason they look for a magnet. Girls look for a magnet that will help them to connect all this disintegrated piece of information, memory, past, feelings, into a singularity, into a singular point of reference. That is the primal biological need of a female brain. They are looking for a magnet that can enable them to connect all their past memories together without any contradictory feeling. They want to have a congruent feeling. They want to have a same feeling because that is biologically essential. Without achieving them, they suffer from shooting pain. It's a lot of energy that connects different clusters in the brain and the thought process. So if they start thinking about any decision, there will be several hundreds and thousands of thoughts that will keep crossing their mind. And this is important for the girls because this is biologically essential, because if the brain stops doing that, then it has to consume a lot of excess energy. Then their reproductive system will be deprived of that energy. Then when the reproductive system goes down, if she doesn't feel like a woman, her entire self-esteem collapses, which anyways puts the brain into an extremely depressive mode. And that is the reason brain doesn't want to go to depression, because in depression it cannot anyways think. And that is the reason they have that desire. The brain has a desire to have a magnet that can help, that can pull all these different memories into a singularity, a stick that can, with which all of them can be bind, a hub with which will connect all of their memories with spokes, and which is simple. So because girls lives in subjective reality, of course their brain will be looking for somebody with an extraordinary knowledge of objective world, which means that girls would always be attracted to the brain. Their brain are always going to be attracted to men who has tremendous hold on objective world. We know the objective world is a theoretical world. For instance, yesterday we discussed about Ohm's law, and we know that communication is nothing but Ohm's law. Voltage is your stored energy, and you want to give that energy to a girl. Resistance is her brain's resistance, her brain's willingness or resistance to take that. And so now why their brain is looking for this magnet is, again, this is a law of electricity. So if you take a pencil and if you put a copper wire like a coil, and if you take those two ends of the wire and put it to a bulb, small 1.5 volt bulb. Now if you move a magnet without touching on the top of the pencil, if you do that, then electricity will be produced, because the electromagnetic field, it follows a Faraday's law, because the electromagnetic field varies across a conductor, and so the electricity will be produced. All right. On the other hand, If you take electricity, if you take electricity, put around a, if you take a conductor, put around an iron piece and pass electricity through it, the conductor is going to become, if it's an iron rod, it's going to become a magnet, right? So why their brain is looking for that electricity, that stable electricity, is because it creates a magnet. Our body is an electromagnetic device because heart generates an electromagnetic field. Brain is an electromagnetic system. So of course, if they get good energy, if they get good electricity, then there will be essentially an electromagnet that is going to help them to connect all their memories, eliminating the contradictory feeling. That is the science part. Now, how you become that magnet? How a man becomes the magnet? Because we know that only when you are that magnet, they are going to lower their resistance and accept whatever you communicate with them. We also learned yesterday that in the subjective reality, that is personal practical reality, if you are communicating in subjective reality with a girl, then in the subjective reality communication is not possible. In subjective reality, only argument and debates and information is possible. For example, you are a startup founder and you may say that, yeah, every startup founder needs to have an idea, create a team. By the way, I'm soon starting a podcast on startup also, so you must subscribe to that. Right. So a startup founder may say that, look, a startup founder must have an idea, must build a prototype, must find a co-founder, then create a startup, then go to the investors, pitch, raise fund and build the business. This is a perspective. This is not a law, because there is no law of thermodynamics, no law of Faraday, no law of Newton's gravity, Einstein's law, or any fundamental law that governs the universe can explain this phenomenon. Hence, this phenomenon that a startup should raise fund and so is a perspective. It is a subjective reality. There are evidences. So, evidences are not the laws. You may look into internet and you may find several startups which has been successful and which are not being successful have gone this way. So you'd believe that if you go this way, then life will give you happiness, life will bring you victories, you will be able to create a startup. However, that's not the law. You have observed some evidences. Those evidences are all in the real world. And based on those evidences, you have created a model that if you implement this, then this is what is going to happen. It is still subjective reality. Evidence-based narration is a subjective reality. For instance, you take 10 people, 5 are normal, 5 have a particular disease. You take a medicine, you give to all 10 people, and out of the 5 people, 4 recover. So you get an evidence that the medicine helps those with the disease recover. Therefore, the medicine works. No. This is evidence-based. Anything which has a data and evidence and statistics is still a subjective reality. Problem is, your subjective reality, as we discussed yesterday, is going to be completely different from somebody else's subjective reality. And therefore, in general, when you discuss or when you talk or when you try to communicate with someone, in the subjective reality, they either agree to you or they disagree to you. Either they believe in what you are saying or they don't believe in what you are saying. Either they are with you or they are not with you, right? That is the reason we use do you agree. In my opinion, I completely disagree. These are the narrations of the subjective reality. Whenever somebody is operating at the subjective reality, whether it's a man or a girl, the memories will have different subjective experiences. For example, when you make that foundation, that a startup founder must have an idea, create a prototype, find a co-founder, build a team, then go and pitch to the investors, raise fund and build the business. When you do that, if you are unsuccessful, excuse me, if you are not victorious in terms of raising the fund, then your subjectivity is going to be changed, isn't it? You'd not be able to believe that statement. You'd say, no, I don't agree that a founder should do that. Probably a founder should focus from day one about profit. He should take care because investment is hard. So you see, based on your life situation, your subjective experience gets changed. Even you'd be having contradictory feeling if it is not as much as the females, but a man will still have a contradictory feeling if you are driven by feeling and subjectivity. And therefore, even when you are, say, successful, quote unquote, though success definition is completely different and you can check out in our previous episodes. Even when you are victorious, even when you have the things going in your life, the problem is you are still in the subjective reality. It is still analytics driven, it is still statistics driven, it is still data driven. And data, statistics, analysis changes all the time. And therefore, anyone who agrees to you on an issue may not agree to you in the other issues. Someone who has the similar opinion that of yours in one issue may not have the same opinion in other issues. And when you create a relationship with a girl, the last thing that a girl wants to have are contradiction with her partner. That is extremely punishing for the females because they don't want to have a contradictory feeling with her man. This is punishing because this exhausts their energy significantly. So by this hypothesis, if you are in the subjective reality, irrespective of how much money you have, what car you have, what model of car you have, how much of gold you are wearing, what is the phone that you are using, all this becomes irrelevant when you communicate, because when you are giving a signal, either which is when you are transferring your energy through the communication, either she will be receptive or she may not be receptive. Either her resistance will be high or her resistance is going to be low. Now, if communication is Ohm's law and you are transferring your energy, that is current, to her with an aim for her to create an electromagnetism that would connect all her bits and pieces of memory. In that situation, if in a circuit the resistance is unpredictable, sometimes it is 10 ohms, sometimes 470 ohms, sometimes 4 kilo ohms, sometimes 10 kilo ohms, sometimes 1 mega ohm. So if the resistance varies, sometimes it may become really zero, then the circuit doesn't work, right? If you have a battery and if you want to supply the electricity, you need the intermediate circuit to be fixed. Circuit cannot change, right? Then it doesn't work because battery will supply the similar amount of voltage. Irrespective of what the girl's resistance level is, your energy is not going to change. You are not going to eat 10 breads instead of 2 just to deliver more voltage. The circuits cannot deliver more voltage, right? So therefore, because your energy is fixed, it's like a battery, and you want to give that energy to the girl, communication is this way, then under that situation, if the resistance varies, then it is impossible for the communication to exist, which means that when you discuss on certain topics, she will be extremely receptive. On the other topics, she would not be totally receptive. In some topics, she may be receptive, she may not be receptive. So, when you observe these patterns, you generally start talking about those topics where she would be interested. You see, let's say that she supports the same sports team that you do. You would be invariably attracted to talk about the sports with the girl. If she likes the same restaurant and the dish that you like, then you'd be more driven by doing that what she likes, because it is a receptive. You'll be able to give that energy to her. That's communication, and that keeps the relationship. It is the string of the relationship, the communication mode. So the problem unfortunately is you'd be probably knowing not much about her. So the topics that are concerning to her, for instance, her relationship with her father, her contradictory feelings with her father, her contradictory feelings with her mother, her contradictory feelings with her siblings, her confusion with her career, her confusion regarding you, her confusion regarding herself. All of this are something where in the subjective reality, she has her own subjective reality. And if you're talking about the subjective reality, then there is a conflict, then there is a friction, then her resistance comes down. For example, if you tell her that you should not go to the work because I don't like my partner, my wife, my girlfriend, whomsoever, to work, I am good enough to arrange for the money, you should take care of the home. Now, that is your subjective world. That is your worldview. That is your belief system. That is not her belief system. She might have her own belief system. She might have her own dreams. She might have her own theories, her own confusion. Now, it works to a degree. When the girl respects you, she thinks that you know enough. It's like giving the respect to the doctor. In general, we take doctors on their face value. That if a doctor is saying something about my health, then I rather follow that, because they have invested significant amount of their time, money and their life into understanding human body. So the way we respect a doctor and we generally follow their advice, the same way whenever you talk in their subjective reality, a girl accepts that to a degree. However, compliance rate in the medical is less than 50%. Within 2 years of consultancy, almost 25%, only almost 25% follows the advice of the medical practitioner, because they are talking in the subjective reality. They would say, if you take this medicine, your BP will come down. Now, when the patient experiences that it doesn't, they don't believe in that subjective reality anymore. It's a belief-based system. So therefore, the compliance comes down over a period of time. Now, the possibility of two persons' subjective reality being the same is zero, because genetically each of us are different. So it's a fundamental rule that my subjective reality is going to be completely different from your subjective reality. So there is no way that two persons subjective reality are same, and that's the reason people tries to become authority. I'm a doctor, so whatever I say you have to listen because I have got a degree, I have got a training. I am a teacher, I have passed government service teaching, so whatever I teach you have to learn because I am an expert teacher, right? So this is how people try to build their authority, and authority is an unquestionable source and you are supposed to consume that. Please watch our episode on respect to understand the principle of authority. Alright, so whenever you talk in the subjective reality, in order for you to get that through her brain, you have to either put a lot of extra voltage if she is not receptive, or you can manage your energy when she is receptive, and that's the reason most men eventually end up discussing the topics which are absolutely non-central to a girl. For example, sports. She doesn't care after a certain time whether India has won a cricket match or not, because her major concern is her contradictory feeling for her father. A girl thinks that, okay, I don't need to become mother, I need to be successful in the career, but that's what she's saying. There is no truth behind it because she doesn't know what is the truth. She is repeating a story, and I told you that there is no good or bad, it is their biological need. They're repeating that story because the amount of processing that brain has to do to solve that conundrum is so high that their ovarian reproductive system may collapse with such high level of decision. And that's why girls are extremely afraid of being judged or the judgment, because their brain cannot judge or take out the judgment. So coming back in the subjective reality, if you are communicating with the girls, often a man end up advising and suggesting to the girl. There is a reason behind that. You know that a girl is receptive. She is receptive biologically. Why she is receptive? Because she is looking for that electric signal. She is looking for that electric signal which will create the magnetism that will hold her entire memory and contradictory feelings together. So taking your energy is her biological need. Now, what energy? Now, because she is a listener, she wants to accept your energy. Generally, men talk. So, a girl would say often that I like sense of humor in my man. Of course, every man must have a sense of humor. Every man must have a sense of humor, and every man does have a sense of humor. We learn to laugh at our life because, of course, because when the girls are 13 or 14 years old, they start getting all the attention, and at that age, boys' testosterone level is much lower. Their testosterone start increasing from the age of 25. So the boys don't get any attention. They're not really needed. So we start laughing at ourselves. For example, I run a healthcare company. I've pretty much done a lot of biomedical research and understanding of the human body, particularly physiology, over the last 10 years. However, in my class 12, when I had to dissect a frog, I got extremely emotional by the frog. It appeared to me such a polite animal, and I just ran away with the frog. I could not really dissect in my biology lab, and so I ended up creating a non-invasive company because I get afraid by blood. So it's like that. I did engineering and managed to score just about the passing marks, which is 35 in almost 40 subjects. So we learn to laugh at ourselves because the life is hard. All right. So coming back now, The girl says that they require sense of humor. Of course. Why? Because sense of humor makes them feel light. Life is not serious, right? Everything is not serious. Not getting a job is not that a serious concern. Not achieving a victory is not that serious concept. Not feeling good is not that serious matter. So nothing in life is all that serious other than death situation. Nothing is serious. You lose your money, a great deal of money in share market, say for instance, it's not that serious matter. You'll again earn money. So nothing in life is serious, and therefore a man who can laugh at himself and can make her laugh, of course, attracts females, and they want conversation and communication whereby a man is making them smile and laugh, because when they laugh, at least some dopamine is released, which helps them to comfort their brain. It releases their shooting pain. Now, these are occasional, right? They're not always looking for those feelings, because they last not a very long. If you make a joke, she will laugh. That will last for hardly a day. Now, you cannot live your life with a joke. Every day you have to pull out thousands of jokes. Now, you cannot be at such a high mood every day to make such high jokes day in and day night. It is just not possible. Is it possible? Can you make her laugh all the time for next 50 years? It's not possible. That is life. That is the practical aspect of the life. So, yes, that is one part which is essential. You have to make her laugh, because whenever she's in stress, if you can make her laugh, her stress gets released. Works. That's a biological need, because again, remember, a girl has much lesser cortisol or stress handling capacity than a man is. Beyond all this nonsense of girls and boys are same and all. These are all reductionist brain theory. You should not pay any attention to all those theories, right? You should look into biology. All right, now coming back to this again. So sense of humor is part of the communication that is essential, because it helps her, reduces her stress, but it doesn't take away the core fundamental need that she still has to have a magnet that helps her combine all the stories. All right, now you have to therefore know all her stories, every contradictory feelings with those stories, her life's complete autobiography. The problem is, we already know, we have already seen and learned from the episode of education and learning. You may find the episode here again. And in that episode, we learned that our brain learns, is in the receptive mode only when we are suffering and only when we are struggling. When the things are good, our brain is not really in the receiving mode. But if you are victorious, if you are a winner, your brain is in the giving mode. You want to give advices, you want to talk about the victories, you want to show off your watch, you want to show off your phone, you want to show off your property. Your brain is not in the receiving mode, and therefore your brain, even if a girl tells her story, you'd not be interested in her story. Your brain will not remember those stories. It will not bother to remember those stories, because it doesn't have to remember those stories. So now, if you do not know which are the places where the small iron pieces are spread, you cannot take the magnet and move it, right? So in order to communicate with a girl, the first essential need is knowing her entire autobiography. And she will tell you thousands of lies, because there is a rationality. Let's say a girl felt attracted by her father. That's a very, very shameful feeling. That gives her guilt. That gives her shame. She feels I'm a bad girl. She can't tell you that I felt attracted by my father, which is again a biological phenomenon, but she cannot accept it. She cannot accept the fact that she felt always jealous by her mother, that she wanted to banish her mother and she wanted to save her father. She can't accept it. So she will tell herself this story. A lot of rationalization stories. These are just stories. So when a girl is narrating about her life, let's say a girl says, when I was young, my father left my mother and me alone to never come back. That's, you do not know how much is fact, how much is truth, and what is her real feeling. It may be that she missed her father all her life, and to deny the fact that she missed her mother because she was dependent on her mother, she didn't, in order to deny that yes, I did not miss my father, rather I'm angry with my father, in order to give the validation to her mother, she might have told herself this story that my father was bad and he left me and my mother. That's a story. Now when she tells this story, she's telling you the subjective reality of the story at that moment of time. So what do? You try to become better than her father. You try to act that no, I'm never going to leave you, not like your father. So you want more stories of her about her father. You understand the prototype and you create a model of her father, and then you try to behave exactly the opposite way that her father was. You want to give her more attention. You want to give her the fatherly love. That's the problem. Because she narrated you the story in her subjective reality where she is not confident that's the right story, because it's a story. It's eventually a story. That story still has contradictory version. Whenever she will be alone, she will miss her father. That's a reality. The most hateful girls would miss their father. When they're lonely, they'll feel vulnerable. They would want to talk to their father. So now, if you start talking nonsense about her father, let's say, that man was so bad, how could he do that? When she is angry, she will like that validation, those talks of yours. She knows that you are giving her validation. She will be more receptive because she is angry and you give validation to the anger. But then she would again become sad because her feelings are changing all the time. And then, but you don't know what is her feeling because you have not understood her. Then start telling, if I am like this, then I'm different from your father. Your father shouldn't have been doing that. At that moment, when you were saying that your father shouldn't have been doing that, she is missing her father. Yeah. In the morning, 1 hour back, when we were discussing, she was angry. You gave her validation. Now, after validation, her defense is over. She has now started missing her father. She wants to cry. And when? Now her father is her God. And now, when you are saying, such man should be a curse in this society, they should not exist. Guess what? She is hurting you. So, it is so simple because our feelings are changing, our subjective reality is changing, and if you stay back in the subjective reality, you'd get completely confused. Because if your current and voltage is not stable, then it is the reverse current that she is going to supply, and then you will start getting confused. If your current cannot create a magnet inside her brain, It's a simple principle, right? If your current is not creating a magnet inside her brain to hold her memories together, then the reverse current flowing from that is going to enter your brain and will start creating small pieces of magnets which will fragment your own self. You'll get confused. See, now in your brain, in different portions, there are different memory chunks which are getting created, right? And they are going to pull small part of your life series. So now, while talking to her, you'll get confused. Should I say good to her father, good about her father? Should I say bad about her father? Let me avoid the topic, and that way you'd start avoiding most of the topics which matters to her. That's the principal reason why a man over a period of time stops understanding a girl, because again you went by the subjective reality, and in the subjective reality, irrespective of what and how much you observe, there are no two persons subjective reality can be same, right? But Ohm's law is going to be same for you, for me, and even for that girl who doesn't understand the Ohm's law, right? That's objective world. Objective world has theory. Objective world is the one which is governing the universe. And because laws are governing the, say, law, if law of thermodynamics is governing the universe, and the entire universe is a single unified quantum energy, then it's a simple physics that even you are governed by that law of thermodynamics, right? If the electricity of the universe is governed by the electromagnetic principles of Faraday, then your body is also going to be governed by the same electromagnetic principle of Faraday. The reason being, you are also an electromagnetic element. Your heart is an electromagnetic device, because heart generates a charge, electrical signal after you get the ECG. However small it is, even at the smaller level, it is going to still follow the same principles of magnetism and law of thermodynamics, law of gravity. So therefore, it's so simple that because she is expecting a magnet, but that magnet is a objective truth. She is looking for an objective truth. But you are communicating with her in the subjective world. In her subjective world, she has alternative, confusing, contradictory feelings and thoughts with each of her memory. Every person in her life, even a girl who is watching these videos every day, when she is angry, she is going to say, oh, that person, he doesn't have his lives act together. He comes every day morning and he just wash out 1 hour. I don't understand what he speaks. When you would again be down, depressed, or maybe lonely, you'd want to open the video and you'll listen again. You'll get your energy constricted and you say, thank God somebody is making video every day. You see, now if she was discussing about this video with you, you'd say, they're all marketers, they talk, you don't have to take them seriously. Maybe at that time, she wanted to share her learning with you, but you are not receptive. Then maybe at some certain time, she says that, no, I don't understand. He talks so much about science and it seems a time waste, and then you get a good validation and say, yeah, those things are time waste. You should not waste time on that. And then you make a mockery the next day. You say, so what's that intimacy loss teacher is telling you? Is he telling you how to not to lie? Something like that. So in this subjective reality, the problem is because of their contradictory view, whenever you try to give one view to them, That doesn't work. So you have to know the objective truth behind everything. You have to know why at that moment, in that situation, she is disliking certain things. Why at that moment, in that particular situation, she is liking something. In order for you to know why she is feeling like that in that particular moment, in that particular instance, you have to know what she felt in the similar situation in the past instance of her life. So you have to ask her about her life in different ways. You have to keep learning about her. Every time she narrates the same story of her life, that story is going to be changing. Every time she tells you the same story of her life, that story is going to be changed. Even if she might have told that story thousands of the times, you can see those changes in her eyes. Right? So when she is telling this story, you have to be receptive. When are we receptive? Men are more receptive when they struggle. Why? Whenever you are suffering, whenever you are struggling, whenever you have struggle, your prefrontal brain takes over your midbrain. Your midbrain is fight-flight brain. It's a pleasure brain. Your brain becomes much more consciousness-driven rather than awareness-driven. You want to learn much deeper into the theory. When if you are depressed or lonely, some of you are probably you have had certain losses in life. You would be investing almost 1 hour every day to watch these episodes, to listen to this episode and take down notes, try to make sense out of those episodes. But those of you which have your work, which have your acts together, you are earning, you're having your life, you don't need to watch these videos, however values they create. And I'm not talking about this is just an example. You don't have to read that much book. Whatever they say in the social media that a successful man reads one book, don't believe in all those things theoretically, because if you are not struggling, you are operating from your process brain, basal ganglia. It's a habit brain. So you are repeating your victories. You are trying to replicate the same thing. You are trying to be consistent. There is no deep thinking over here. You are living in a subjective reality all the time. But when you struggle, your subjective reality completely collapses. For example, you are a startup founder with over a year. You've not been able to raise any fund. Then all those suggestions that you should have a prototype, you should have a team co-founder, nothing exists, because by that time people have evacuated you. You are not capable of living in the subjective reality at that moment, because your subjective reality is painful. So you will, as a man, develop higher consciousness. Your brain will start looking into the things deeper and deeper, because at the time 5 ways to be successful as a startup founder is not working for your life. At that moment, 3 ways how you can easily raise fund is not working, because you have followed all those tricks and methods and they are not working. So your brain rejects all those shortcuts. Now your brain looks for deeper knowledge beyond nonsenses. So your brain digs deep into the subjects. Your brain observes people much deeply. It is interested in other people. It wants to learn why people are like the way they are. It wants to detect those people who might end up cheating you, who might end up giving you bad things. And therefore, when you are suffering, struggling, not earning money, when your life is not set, you are extremely receptive. That is the reason very few times you might have heard that a girl has walked away with the head of a state, or maybe a businessman. Yeah, there are few exceptions, but many a times you'll heard that Girls have walked away from a very long-lasting relationship with a cab driver, with a very poor man. The reason is they're struggling. These men are struggling. Because of their struggle, their prefrontal cortex is active. They are more conscious. Not aware, they are more conscious. Conscious brain is more receptive brain. So they are hearing. They are able to make better sense out of those fragmented feelings of the girl. So a man who has struggled would know that, everybody cannot be same all the time, though he is going to explain the girl that no, your father was not bad. Perhaps he wanted to give you the peace, and perhaps he might not wanted daily quarrel with your mother every day. Think about this, and then over a period of time, all this knowledge that he brings into the table helps her sort each issues in her life. Then the man is listening to her because his brain is receptive to listen to her. If one is victorious, if one is having a Porsche car, Rado watch, or I don't know, if one is branded, then everything is going good in his life, and his brain is operating not on prefrontal cortex but on midbrain. It's a pleasure brain, it's a flight and fight brain. And therefore, because it's a flight and fight brain, because of that, it is not receptive enough. So even while she is telling this story, you are thinking about your successes and you're trying to correlate, is that story somewhere related to your life? And then you respond to those stories, you react to those stories, you say, yes, my life was also like that. I also have an instance like this. What happens is, most of those communication, when you are supposed to listen, you end up being the one who says at the end. You narrate your story. Why? It's not your fault. You are giving validation because both of you are in the subjective reality. She narrated a story, you are narrating a story back. She's saying you something, you are telling her that yes, my life is also similar. In fact, you are trying to make her, give her the validation. But wait, she did not tell this story to learn the similar story from your life. She is not in the receptive mode at this moment. She is in the giving mode. So when you'll know that she is receptive or she wants to tell, very hard in the subjective reality, it is very hard. So when a man suffers, this is a law that you have to remember. The more you suffer, the less you suffer. Let me repeat. The more a man suffers, the less a man suffers. Why? Because the more you suffer, your consciousness gets more active. You are not pleasure driven. Pleasure doesn't attract you. You are more deep knowledge driven. You are not reading short blogs, how to be successful, blah blah. You are reading deep theory, deep philosophy. You are not meeting people just on the surface level. You are observing them. You are trying to learn from them. You are really interested in their stories. You want to understand. You want to find the meaning of life when you struggle. And therefore, more amount of brain gets correlated. You have to remember more. So from prefrontal cortex to cerebral cortex, emotional right side brain to left side brain, everything gets connected. We already know that pressure is equal to force divided by area. So what happens when your brain area increases? When the area increases, pressure decreases. When pressure decreases, you appear more confident. When the stress decreases, you appear more confident. It's not fake confidence. That confidence is biological. On the other hand, if you were victorious, let's say you have a car, you have a business, you are earning money, your brain's only this much portion is working. It's a habit brain. There is a basal ganglia, and that is repeating you. You're getting up, you're going to shop or going to business establishment, taking the meetings, making it successful. Process, repeat. This is this much of brain. It works till there is no stressful situation. Whenever a stressful situation comes, you see, it's like this: force divided by area. Area is small, so you find pressure. In the pressure, you get less receptive. That's why the communication gets broken down. So fundamental rule is, the more you struggle and suffer, the less you suffer. Because your brain now operates at the objective truth, not the subjective reality. So when a girl tells a story, let's say a father's story, you can give an example from the history. You can theorize that. You can convert that into theory without bringing your own story into her stories. So then, over a period of time, when you are listening to the girl, when you are hearing her stories, when you are interested in her, at that time, she finds that magnet, because then, whenever she suffers anxiety, she can give you that. You have the ability to take that anxiety, and then you give her the comfort to tell her the story, irrespective of how much you are successful, irrespective of how hard you have worked. From a successful perspective, when you narrate a story to a girl, when you communicate with a girl, there is always a pride factor. When you are successful, again, your definition. When you are victorious, I'll rather say that when you are a winner, let me call you a winner. When you are a winner, your dopamine is high, your pride is high. So, whenever you are talking, you are not receptive, because you are in a narrator mode. You are in an advisor mode. You want people to follow your advice because you are high on pride. Those wins give you pride. From a high pride point of view, that's point of reference in the brain. Whenever you are narrating this story, look, if you do this, you'll be successful because I did this, I'm successful. I earned $5 million and I followed this. If you attempt this, then you'll become rich by $5 million. Now, with those kind of stories, the problem is it's still subjective reality. You followed ABCD, other person just cannot follow ABCD. That's why most self-help groups and most self-help books do not work. Why? Because every person's genes are different, and therefore every person's subjective reality is different. And therefore, if you are looking for how to, you're going to eventually fail, because my how to is not going to work on your how to. It's science. Alright, now with pride, when you are telling that, your pride is shown because you are at a high dopamine level, and at that time, all of those who says girl look for gold diggers, no. At a high pride, high dopamine level, you are operating in the pleasure brain. So your brain attracts those who are pleasure brain. It's an attraction. Because you are a winner, your dopamine is higher, it is attracting those girls who are also operating at the pleasure brain. And in the pleasure brain, they are just not girls, that's a small part of them. It's a very small part of them. Pleasure is a very, very, very small part of a girl's life. Just because they did not have a magnet, they are pleasure driven. For example, a privileged princess, her father gave her everything in life. She never had to struggle. Whatever she says doesn't matter, because she is pained from within. She knows that there is no her, that she is just like a property. Her father has given her everything. She might say that I'm a princess. She might appear extremely, she might end up hurting people, hurting waiters. But inside her, she is pained. So whom would she meet in life? She would meet a winner man. Who is a winner man? Who is operating at the prefrontal, who is operating at the amygdala level, who is operating at the pleasure level. So it's a two pleasure personalities. It's a two pleasure personalities which are getting connected. Two pleasure personalities. Seeking pleasure is one of our personalities. You being a winner is one of your personalities, but that is so dominant that they get connected. And of course, the problem is winning, and this is a very small part of the brain. There are still childhood thoughts, there are still feelings, however you suppress them. Her feelings are more, and therefore, whenever you or her come out of that person, or whenever you feel vulnerable, at times your life will not work the way that you want them to work, right? At times you may have business failure and you may want her to give you that comfort, but she can't, because her only pleasure persona got connected with you. Because only her pleasure persona got connected with you. That's when it fails. So remember, if you boast about your gold, you'd only attract those who are seeking gold. If you boast about your gold, you are going to attract those who are only seeking gold. If you can only give gold, then only those who need gold will be attracted by you. Isn't it a simple thing? So those who says that girls are gold diggers are essentially the one who are gold chain weavers. They circle the gold chain, they show their gold chain, and the girl comes. That's not real her. That's a persona, pleasure persona, and swinging the gold chain, moving in a very costly car. That's not real you. That's your pride persona. The real you is extremely vulnerable, that is insecure, that is hurt, that is broken, and that is the reason you are trying to mask that broken with a golden chain. And another broken girl shows up, shows her attraction, but she is looking at the gold chain, because in the subjective reality we look for linear answers. If pain, then painkiller. If fever, then paracetamol. If acidity, then antacid. Same way, a girl thinks, if I get a better gold man, I will have more settled life. As a man, you think, the more gold I'll have, I'll attract the girls. Both are subjective reality. There is no truth behind that. When you suffer and struggle and learn deep, acquire knowledge, your consciousness increases. You become a different person. You become a man with a substance. Then you give more meaning to her feelings. She becomes one with herself. And that's how you communicate. Remember, the only thing a man is capable of giving a girl is giving herself to herself. Let me repeat. The only thing a man can give to a girl is giving her herself. And that is the only thing a girl expects from a man. She cannot say because she doesn't know. She is in the subjective reality. This is the theory. So how you communicate? You struggle in your life. When you struggle, you gather knowledge. You gather more than those advices. You gather real interest in people. You understand stories beyond how somebody is successful. You understand life, you understand theology, you understand philosophy, and then you are really interested to learn from her own life. She narrates her life to you, and when she narrates her life to you, you consume that, you process that, analyze that. You ask, next time you start the communication, you pick the communication from where you left. That's how you transfer energy to and fro. She gives you the subjective facts, you create the objective truth, and that's how you both remain connected. Remember, subjective reality communication doesn't exist. There exists no communication between two subjective facts, because subjectivity by definition is personal. Genetics of each person is different, and therefore by definition every person's subjective world is going to be different from the other. Therefore, any author who writes in this subjective world is not going to help the other person. As long as that works, you'd say, yes, it works. Then when it stops working, just like medicine, when it works, you'll say doctor is good. As it doesn't work, you'll say this medicine is not good and the doctor is not good. In the objective truth, Ohm's law is neither good nor bad. That's a law. It's a law that drives the universe. A girl having multiple feelings with same memory is neither good nor bad. That's a law that is required for her brain to supply the energy for her reproductive system and ovary. That's a law. Neither good nor bad. Drives it. It's like nebula. In the cosmos, there is something called nebula, high in gases, high in reactivity. No? And that's where the stars are created. She's a creator. Her brain has to be like that. It has to supply different energy, because if the energy becomes stable, then she cannot become a mother. Alright. So, objective truth is neither good nor bad. Ohm's law is neither good nor bad. That is a law that drives the universe. First law of thermodynamics, energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. It just transforms from one form to another form. Neither good nor bad. That's a law by means of which the universe works. No two human beings can have the same genes. We are different from each other, at least by 0.01% of our genetic traits. Neither good nor bad. It's a law. None of us may have two same fingerprints. No human ever born in this world will have similar fingerprints. Neither good nor bad. Just a law. So when you can translate and transform a girl's subjective reality into an objective truth, your communication gives that objective truth. That's what makes a communication between a man and a girl. If you cannot do that, if all your brain is all about tips, tricks and methods, 5 ways to remain healthy, diet that is essential for diabetes, 5 things that you should do to control your hypertension, 2 things you should do to game your girl, doesn't work. It doesn't work. Theoretically, it doesn't work. So, become a struggler, sufferer, suffer as much as possible. Take yourself suffering. Don't settle down, because once you settle down, it's this much of brain. Remember. And you will have no control. You'll be a proud person. Once you are a proud person, you'll only attract the gold diggers. So be a sufferer. When you suffer, you will be a learner. When you are a learner, you will gather knowledge and education, not just methods, tips, tricks. Then you will be a better listener. When you are a listener, you listen to her stories. When you are suffering, you can make more sense out of her stories. You will be knowing more objective truth behind those stories. And then, when you are communicating, if she narrates a subjective reality, you are going to give her the objective truth. Laws are teaching, isn't it? You have to teach Ohm's law. I taught you yesterday how Ohm's law is driving the traffic. It's a communication, right? Today, I explained you how law of Faraday, the electromagnetic law, is governing why the communication with a girl in the subjective world make you confused. So once you start learning this, and you are not just going to learn them in book, when you suffer in life, life is going to teach you this. It teaches every man. So your objective is not going to get settled down in life, but rather, even if you are settled down, you have to find a way to suffer. You have to find a way to suffer. The more you suffer, the less you suffer. The more you suffer, the better you communicate. That's all for this episode, and that's all on the rules of the communication, the fundamentals of the communication. I'm very sure that all of you smart men out there would be able to understand the philosophy, theory, and the science behind this episode, and you'd be able to take better control of your life. And I'm pretty sure those girls who are watching this episode would be in a better position to understand why they get confused and why they're attracted by some kind of man, and why they are losing their attraction to a man once they were attracted with. You don't satisfy the biological law. The law, it's not the girl is leaving you. It's not 70% of the girls are filing for the divorces. It's just that 70% of the men are settled in the society. They have stopped suffering. So you break the law, and then Ohm's law will stay. You have to adjust according to the law. The Ohm's law is not going to adjust according to you. With that, thank you so much for taking time, paying attention, attending these classes. These episodes are now also available in Spotify. You can look for the Intimacy Laws episode. And also, you can get the book Intimacy Laws for Man, The Birth of the Lugal, which is a narration of history, deep science, in 13 different dimensions that takes you through different part of the life. It guides you. It doesn't tell you what to do. It tells you how to think. It gives you the manipulation method. It doesn't teaches you how to game somebody, but rather it teaches you how to become a man, how to unlock your masculinity. And I can assure you that you'll get a lot of value out of the book. Anyways, you can get the book from Life Store. If you are in India, the link will be in the description below. And if you are somebody from outside India, you can get the book from Amazon. The link will be also down. You can also check out in Spotify for the podcast link if you want to, if you are in a long drive and if you want to listen to this episode while you are driving. That's all for today. We'll meet tomorrow again with episode number 27. By that time, have a great day. Goodbye.